Hello everyone and welcome to a new video. So today we're going to be tackling something a little bit different. I have been really interested in trying natural dyeing for a while. In general I don't have a lot of experience with fabric dyeing, but I've done it a couple of times and I was just really fascinated about the idea of using natural goods to dye fabric. So I've watched a couple of videos, I've read a couple of articles. My main reference is this book. I'll talk a little bit more about it later. I could have bought the nice dyes described in the book, you know, things like madder and specific flowers like cosmos. However, I decided to just use what I have around the house. We're currently on lockdown. I didn't want to have to order a lot of things that I didn't already have. And I actually have a Mexican mint plant that has completely overgrown my kitchen. I don't really have any use for the leaves from it. So I've been picking the leaves as it grows and I've been keeping them in a little pot. And I thought, you know, might as well see what happens. It's a bit of an experiment that I've wanted to try for a little while. So we're just going to give it a go. I've got about a metre of natural white cotton that we're going to experiment with. And we're going to use the mint. I will talk you through the directions as I go along. But I thought I would just mention really quickly this step. There's actually quite a lot of steps. It's not, I'm usually a very put it in the pot and see what happens kind of person, but dyeing is a science, and so this book actually goes over all the steps very minutely. So the first step is to weight your fabric, because that'll be important for the calculations of how many dye you'll need and how much mordant and all that kind of things. The second is to pre-wash the fabric. The third is to mordant. I've never heard of this, but this is putting natural minerals in a bath, and then you add that to the fabric, and that will help the dye stick to the fabric. And then supposedly you're meant to then do another bath with chalk or wheat to remove any extra mordant from the fabric. But unfortunately I have neither of those things and I forgot about it, so we're not going to be doing that today. And then the next step is to actually dye it, so I'll be preparing the dye bath for that. And then rinse it again. So these things are all really time consuming because they all have to be done, you know, for an hour, or bring it slowly up to the boil for an hour, let it simmer, things like that. Just the mordant is recommended to be mordant for 2 to 24 hours. So we'll see. I'm hoping I can get it done today, but I'll let you know otherwise if this crosses over to a different day. And I just also like to apologise for the noise from the street outside. Even though it's lockdown, it's a very busy street. But yeah, I'm really excited about this. Let's see if I can dye some fabric with some Mexican mint. So welcome to my kitchen, you guys. I did actually clean up a little bit, but it's a very small kitchen. I mean, we live in London, we're lucky to have a kitchen. But this is my Mexican mint. As you can see, it has grown exponentially to the point where I had to cut off the bit because it was so long, and I actually gave it to a friend. And then this side here, I had to cut it off as well because it was just going, and I gave that cutting also to a friend, so now there's Mexican mint all across London. But as you can see, it's got many leaves and I really don't have a use for them. So I've been picking them as I go along and keeping them in this little jar. So that's what we're going to be using for dyeing today. And then I just wanted to show you a couple more of my supplies, which include the book. I have got a wooden spoon that has been relegated to dyeing only. You should never mix whatever you use for dyes with things that you use for cooking. And it's the same for this pot. So this pot I bought particularly for dyeing, and it's only been used for that. It's the biggest pot that I could find that I could buy online. I got a measuring spoon and little pH strips. We'll go over them in a minute. And these are the mordants. So I've got aluminum potassium sulfate, which is for animal-based fibers, so things like wool, silk. And this is acetate, which is for cellulose-based fibers, which are things that come from plants like cotton, linen, etc. So I'm going to be using this one, but because I was ordering, I thought I might as well get this one in case I want to dye any natural fibers that are made from animals in the future, then I already have it. So these are my kitchen scales, and that was the first step I had to do, was to weigh my fabric, which came in, it's about a metre of cotton, and it came in at about 260 grams. And then the other thing I wanted to do is that there's a section in the book that talks about pH. And while I probably don't have the mental capacity right now to try and adapt my pH, because you can, depending on whether it's too acidic or too alkaline, I just wanted to see what my natural water is, so let's give that a go. I think I haven't actually used a pH strip since like
8th grade, but the concept is really simple. You just dip it in the water and then it will change color depending on the pH. So here we are, it's gone from the bright yellow to what looks like neutral pH 7, maybe borderline 6, actually looks a lot more like 7. So yeah, that just means that my tap water is neutral, which is what I think it should be anyway. But the book does have some suggestions for what you can use to fix it, things like lemon juice if it's too acidic, or chalk if it's too alkaline. It's actually really interesting how all these things work, but I'm really relieved it's neutral, so that shouldn't really affect my fabric dyeing at the moment. So we are about to mordant. I don't know if that's a verb, but it is now. So I've worked out, based on the ratio that the book tells you about the aluminium acetate to the weight of your fabric. So I'm going to need 3/4 cups of water and 5 teaspoons of the thing. So that's what I'm going to do now. So I have added my mordant into my pot, and I've got the fabric right there, ready to go in. I just wanted to mention real quick that the book does warn you that if you're mixing, when you're mixing and weighing out the aluminium, you need to be wearing a mask. I just grabbed my, COVID-19 mask, but the powder is really fine and you can't breathe it in, and I'm imagining that's not very healthy. So I did wear a mask and it was a lot better. And now this needs to stay in here for about 24 hours, it said, but I'm just going to do the 2 hours. Need to keep it moving every 10 minutes or so to make sure it's submerged. So I'm just going to work on that. So while the mordant's going, I'm just going to make sure I've got the other things prepped. So these are what they call my dye stuff, my whole dyestuffs, which is my Mexican mint leaves. So obviously there's no recipe in the book for Mexican mint leaves, but there is one for eucalyptus leaves, so that's the recipe I'm going to use. They say that for things like leaves and flowers, it should be about 50 to 100% of the fabric weight in the equivalent of the dye stuff. So that's what I'm going to do. I don't know how much I've got in here, but there's plenty more that I could pick without harming the plant, of course. So let's just see. So I currently have 136 grams of the leaves. I'm going to leave it at that because that's just over the 50% mark for the weight of my fabric, but I have stripped the plant quite a lot, so I don't want to do any more of that. So that will be enough. We're just going to give it a go. I don't expect a lot of results. What I'm expecting or hoping for is a sort of faint grey with a slight greenish tint. We'll see what happens. In either way, it's good to know whether this will be something that I could use this plant for, and so I would keep the leaves whenever I prune them because it is a very fast growing plant. So here's my fabric after the mordant. I just need to squeeze out the excess water and rinse really quickly but really lightly. So the instructions actually don't tell you to rinse after the mordant, but they do tell you to rinse after the chalk bath, which I'm not doing, but I thought might as well rinse it, I guess. And then over here I have got the pot ready to go. I just fill it with normal hot water. I'm going to add my leaves, and then I'm going to set the actual fire going and then leave it for an hour at least. I wish you guys could smell this, because this smells amazing. It's like a mix between mint and basil, and it is really, really, really nice. So it has been over an hour since this has been simmering. And you know how I was like, oh, I wish you guys could smell this because it smelled, the fresh leaves smelled amazing. It now smells terrible. Just for context, I hate tea, so now I'm gonna scoop out all the leaves, filter it out as best as I can, and then I'm gonna shove the fabric in there. So here we go. I think my prediction is actually going to be entirely wrong. This might be because I accidentally boiled the leaves a bit too strongly in the beginning, but it does seem like it's going to be a tea coloured kind of outcome, where it just looks like a faint yellow, warm sort of tea-like colour, and then you can see that the leaves have also gone a bit brown. So I feel like that's going to be the outcome of this. Nowhere near the grey-green that I was expecting / hoping for, but you know what, it was still a fun experiment. So at the moment what I've done is I've put the fabric in, and if you've got like air bubbles like this, all you have to do is like keep turning it, because eventually you can push that air towards one of the open edges of the fabric and the air will get out. So just make sure you keep turning it and submersing it as much as you can. So then my instructions are to bring this up to 93 degrees Celsius slowly over half an hour. So I actually just measured the temperature of my water, and my water is already at 85 degrees. So what I did was I kept the actual burner at the minimum, and then you can see there's some still leaves because I couldn't get them all out. I think ideally you would strain it all out, but I couldn't be bothered. And this should take about half an hour, and then you can leave it in that water at that temperature for an hour, I think it said. So a lot of waiting around. Hi guys, so I just wanted to let you know it's been half an hour. I don't know how well the camera's picking this up because of the white balance, but the fabric now has a very light sort of yellow tinge. Not at all like tea. My tea always comes out, I usually use black tea for my tea dyeing, and it comes out really warm and sort of pink. So this is more of a pale yellow. I'm actually really digging this colour, even though it's not what I signed up for. Or well, what I thought I was getting. Obviously this had not happened before. So here we are guys, it has been an hour, this has been boiling away. I have literally just turned off the heat right now. It has become a really nice sort of pale cream, beigey colour. It is nice, it's obviously not a striking colour, it's very discreet and muted, but I quite like it. I'm sure I'll get used to it, it's just a nice piece of plain cotton. So, however, the book does recommend to leave this in there while it cools, so I'm just going to leave it uncovered.
Hello everyone, it is now the next day and here is my finished fabric. It has turned out this really beautiful pale yellow. It is a bit of a muted colour and it's quite discreet, especially on camera, but I really like it. I will definitely get some use out of it. It's just plain cotton, so it can be used for a lining or for a bodice or a top of some sort. I compared it to the shade card in the book, and it's actually quite a similar colour to what you might get from Weld, Fustic or Pomegranate in this paler sort of range. I removed the audio from this section because there was so much clanking outside, so I just did a little bit of a voiceover, but I'm just mentioning how beautiful the fabric is. The only other thing I wanted to mention as well is that I revisited the eucalyptus leaves recipe, and the reason there was a green variation is because she used a different technique where you add iron or sort of powdered iron or a rusty bit of iron to the dye water, and that creates some sort of chemical reaction with the colour, which makes it more green. That is definitely something I would like to try in the future. I have also since learned that yellow is the easiest natural colour to achieve, so this isn't that much of an achievement, but it's still a really nice colour and I'm glad I did it. Thank you for watching.